like your watch party. There you go.
Yeah,
Get
you
that
like
for
my watch party. You like that. Oh shit, we're live. Um,
Dang it.
welcome
Yes.
everyone to the 10k Rum podcast. My name is Amos Joseph, joined by my co-host Brook Potter. How's it going, Brook?
What do I say, Amos? What do I say? I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. We just had a fantastic show on Religion Zero, number 9, that was on my channel. We were discussing atheism. I'm actually a little chuffed because my friend, well, I don't know if he wants his name, but 2 friends from Trinidad and Tobago jumped onto the stream at the end and they had some questions for us. 2 of whom were very good friends of mine back in Trinidad. Haven't spoken to them in a long time. So yeah, I feel a little nostalgic, thinking about making a trip out there and such. How are things in the burning down city of Minneapolis?
So part of my job and everything, I actually went near what is known as Lake Street, which is kind of the epicenter of the protest. Granted, I was on the western part of it, so there wasn't as much, but it's interesting to see. No protests that I saw were from the area I looked at, but I definitely saw a lot of boarded up businesses, a lot of graffiti, a lot of that going on. Definitely not as bad as certain other parts of the country right now that are experiencing the protests, like, so the waves. Um, but yeah. Um, Geez, we got our guests, and they're all reminding us of what we got to do and everything. So,
I mean, there hasn't been any rioting in Minneapolis for some time now. Is that right?
I think there's like a continuous small gathering of like the protests. Like, so there's
the protest, actual
protest,
the
protests. Yeah. So the sort of the honoring of George Floyd, what happened to him.
Yes.
The people are obviously keeping up with the case, what's going on. But yeah, it's all kind of playing out that way. But I mean, I don't want to get too much into it. I think people kind of talk that to death almost.
Right.
So to speak.
I mean, not everybody gets up close and personal with what's going on in a city like that. So I thought your perspective was interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's right now. It didn't seem like anything was really going on there. I mean, granted, I haven't actually gone to the places that are burned down, to go see what's going on there. But I was on the street where a lot of that kind of was going on. So, but first off, before we actually get into all of that, man, allergies are getting really bad this time of year for some reason.
Oh, you're allergic to cocaine?
Yeah. If you guys, of course, everyone knows, the 10k Rum podcast. If you guys are, support the show, love the show, definitely do subscribe. Subscribe to us here on YouTube. Subscribe to us on all of the podcasting platforms like iTunes and Google Play. But if you guys do want to help out with the show in different ways, we have the Tactical Soap. No to Brian in the chat, we are not the Tactical Soap show. We are the 10k Rum podcast.
What's up, Brian?
We are sponsored by Tactical Soap because we need to make this, definitely, worth it to our. No, I'm just kidding.
It's worth it more than a hobby. We'd like this to be a little bit more than a hobby.
A little bit more than a hobby. I mean, it's going in that direction where it's becoming less of a hobby and more of like a passion. It's a passion project.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Without sounding too gay with that. So,
not that there's anything wrong with that.
10k Rum, 10k RUM is the coupon code you can use on tacticalsoap.com if you do like supporting the show through getting some proper soap that actually cleans, makes you smell good, and doesn't fuck with your nuts.
I was about to ask about your balls.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing real good, man. And then, unlike some men, they're not in some woman's purse. So not saying you, just men in general. Or you can go to subscribestar.com/shitlord-preachers. That is where you can support us directly. $1, $5, $10, and $25 increments per month. And the $5 one, which I think will be the most popular one, is the one that gets you access to our raw takes. I know we're planning out a raw takes that's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be having we're going to have a guest in the raw takes. Some topics that we want to talk about, definitely, it's tricky when we put stuff out in public. We're already risking a lot as it is to talk about certain topics, but we want to get it even more spicy topic in our raw takes
Spicy, yes.
with
yes.
a guest. And
An anonymous guest.
An
'cause we have to
anonymous
protect
guest.
his
Yes,
identity.
it's a very interesting. Oh shit, we said it's a he. Oh no.
Did you just assume his gender?
Oh, you said his gender, man.
Oh shit. We're fucked now.
We are fucked. I mean, you know, we'll get into like, you know, maybe the Chaz will send their military after us.
The flower power army.
Yeah. So yeah, those are different ways you can support the show, of course. Do check that out. All the links are below, of course. And yeah. So excuse me.
Some good housekeeping there, Amos.
Good housekeeping, yes. Yeah. So the big news, I think, is the Chaz.
The Chaz.
So for everyone who doesn't know, and our listeners, I mean, it is at the what are we? We're in like the 1st
of June.
14th of June. Yep. So the Chaz. I mean, it's kind of why I named the title, "The Tune of June of the Loons." It's of the Loons or something. Right. Just kind of, it's a crazy month. Like every month of this year is just getting crazier and crazier. I mean,
we're not next level Jumanji shit that's going on.
We're not even talking about Yellowstone anymore. We're talking about this like new country that's trying to form in Seattle.
On 6 city blocks.
Yeah, the Chaz, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone.
Right, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, as opposed
not to be confused with a Chad.
Yeah. Capitol Hill Autonomous Dick. No.
Autonomous dudes. I think Babylon B did that, right? They said that Trump was going to form a competing.
The Chad right next to them.
Yeah.
And then it just showed all these like big buff dudes like just standing around like.
The beef heads.
Yeah. So, was it Antifa that started the Chaz?
I suspect so. What happened, from what I understand, is a bunch of them showed up at the precinct in Seattle, the police precinct, and they basically said, "Want the building? Like, give us the building, and we wouldn't, riot or burn it down or whatever the case may be." Pretty much. And what me with that whole thing is the fucking police did it. They actually stepped out of the precinct and gave it to these kids. And that is when the whole Chaz experiment began, which is, as Amos said, is the autonomous zone. They put up a bunch of barricades around 6 city blocks, and they basically declared it as independent from the rest of the United States. And
independent from the regime, as they called it.
Right, as well, basically independent from the U.S. and the state and all this other shit. And they're in the process of setting up what they assume will be some kind of communist utopia, I suppose.
Yeah.
If that's a thing, if that's not an oxymoron.
I think Tucker Carlson did something funny. So, you know, like they get the graphics when they're doing the news and they're doing all these things. Yeah. And he has his like staff of journalists. And so one of his journalists went there and like, you know, live at the Chaz. And, so his guy's sitting there talking and they're doing the split screen and he says, you know, live on site. And then usually like when a journalist is somewhere, they'll have like a little graphic that says where he is, what time it is there.
Yeah.
And it said live at the Chaz US border. Here's the local time. I was like, what?
Oh, brilliant. And
he's just there talking. They're talking about it. And, I mean, it's this communist utopia. They've got they're in with enforced borders.
Yes.
So they have enforced borders.
Yes.
They have segregation. They have no individual liberties, and they have
no free speech. And no, just to put that in perspective, there was another leader who was there. One of these, I think it was like a lesbian something anarchist with the pronouns of he, they, or some shit like that, right, on Twitter. And this was the de facto leader of this this new movement. And there's some gun club that's supposed to be patrolling the streets. So there are these leftists that actually own guns. I can't remember the name of the club, but apparently they're very shit with guns. So this rapper called Raz drove from California, I believe, or from somewhere, from some out of state location with real guns. And he basically says, look at me. I am the boss now, right? Like he took over the policing, and apparently he's kind of terrorizing some people. So there's all kind of spray painting and litter and all this other stuff. And he went and spray painted, like Raz or whatever, and somebody spray painted over it, and that kind of started a whole bunch of confrontation.
Oh, there's a war over graffiti.
and just to kind of put the icing on the cake, the they them pronoun leader, de facto leader, just had a Me Too moment where some woman accused him, her, zer, whatever, of sexual immorality, and I think whatever it is threatened to kill itself. So definitely no shortage of interesting stories coming out of the Chaz over there. So, it's only been like 3 fucking days.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you seen the map they drew?
No, I haven't seen the map. That must be brilliant.
Let me look this up.
Oh, hey, Al. Yeah, I know. I'm. What the funniest thing about this is when they asked the governor of Washington State, what is he gonna do about this autonomous zone? He was like, "What?" He didn't even fucking know what was going on in the city. So I mean, it's just been hysterics, nonstop comedy gold.
So, here we go. I'll just share the screen here. So for the listeners, of course, you guys will have to tune into the live stream to be able to see what we're doing here. But basically, there we go.
Yeah, just look up the 10k Rum podcast channel on YouTube. You'll be able to follow along.
Oh, I gotta
episode 97.
Sorry, I just reset a bunch of stuff on here, and now I gotta go in and change preferences so I can share my screen. Let's see here.
I mean, did you hear about the hotel incident that took place? So what ended up happening is they put out a bunch of GoFundMe campaigns, and apparently they raised quite a bit of money. I think like $100,000 for this, this communist experiment, which is supposed to be a moneyless, classless society. And anyway, this whole bunch of them storm into this hotel, and they basically like, we're taking over this hotel, and the owner is just like, okay, yeah, fine. And they all booked into the hotel, right? However, 200 rooms or whatever it is. I don't know the details and stuff like that. And of course, they're like, yeah, this is our place now and whatever. And I mean, they paid for it with this stuff, GoFundMe money and whatever. Mm-hmm. And I think by the second day or stuff like that, when they all went out onto the streets and stuff, he changed all of the key codes to the doors to lock them out. So when they come back and they're like, right. What, we can't get into our room. And he's like, tough, sorry, can't help you. So I think a whole bunch of them got homeless that night.
Oh boy. Let's see here.
Yeah, did you manage to pull it up?
Computer's being slow.
Oh, what a shame. What a shame.
We'll have to pull up later, but while we're talking about everything else.
Yes, definitely an awesome move by the owner there, Al.
But basically, yeah, the entire, it's just hilarious. It's it's this leftist utopia with all of the right wing things going on with it that no one is really like, oh wait, oh yeah, we weren't gonna totally do that thing. We believe the regime, as they kind of call it, has all these problems, and they're doing the same thing, if anything worse.
Yeah, they're lopping as revolutionaries, and they're bitching about the regime, quote unquote, but then they go and establish their own fucking regime, which just goes to show these people have no fucking clue what they're doing. They want to defund the police, but the first thing they do is they bring in a gun club to police themselves. I mean, as you say, all of the cliches and all of the nonsense that comes out of this thing. I mean, I know eventually we're going to touch on the segregation and the garden and all this other stuff. But again, it just shows that, all of these communist people think that they're going to be the leader. Like they are going to be the next Lenin. And, they're going to be on top and oversee the grand experiment, None of them ever get into the expectation of what it actually takes. They never expect to be the grunt on the ground and actually deal with this stuff, Right.
Yeah, it's fucking insane.
It's comedy gold, man. Right. I've got something. Yeah, I'm going to try and share my screen. Yes, I don't need to see that again. Boom. Let me know if you can see that.
Yep.
There we go.
So you can see the green is basically the
Oh, this is the autonomous zone?
yeah. This is from Reddit, so there's probably a couple of things they added in there kind of for fun, but basically you can kind of see what they're doing and how they're running it. And you can see regime occupied Safeway, police held up here.
Oh my goodness.
They call it, the regime. Protester occupied Seattle, aka Chaz. Political Community Education Center and Speech Citadel. I mean, they've got all sorts of stuff going on in there that's just hilarious. How they're like trying to manage this.
Armed Boogaloo volunteers on Firewatch guarding the precinct.
Yeah, I mean they have they got some structure going on. They got some stuff going on there, but at the same time, it's just like, come on, guys, like this can't be serious. You can't.
Of course not. Of course not. This is hilarious. So they have the park. I guess this is where they're growing the food. I got an ice cream truck coming around. What is this? A baseball diamond? This thing right here?
Yeah, it's a baseball.
That's a baseball diamond. Yeah. Okay.
But I mean,
that's just a comedy.
Yeah, but the whole thing is just it's essentially a military state. It's becoming to a degree.
Well, it's not a military state. I'd say it's a military vacuum, and it's probably going to decay into a what do you call it? Like a warlord zone, because that's basically what happens whenever you have a power vacuum in society. Whoever has the biggest gun wins. So exactly what happened. They had this apparent gun club that was supposed to be policing the streets. This fucking warlord drives in with bigger guns, and now it's he's now the boss. And there's probably some other guy out there who's got even bigger guns, and he's like, oh hell yeah, this is my chance. And he's probably on his way there right now. And instead of the rule of law, you get, whoever has the biggest stick.
The mayor of Seattle doesn't really give a shit either. She's just kind of like, this is how democracy is supposed to be. And she's just letting it go. And she's like, Capitol Hill has always been an autonomous zone where people are free to express their different opinions. I'm like, yeah, it's an autonomous zone where you can express your opinions now. They got the street mural thing where it says Black Lives Matter on the street there. They're doing all this. They're extorting Washington local businesses.
Yeah. They're doing extortion right now. Like, we'll protect you if you pay us money. I think the mayor was so stupid. She thought it was like some kind of hippie commune. And he's like, we could have the summer of love taking place in the Chaz.
Yeah. And it's like, no.
I mean, I fully support the Chaz. Like, I absolutely fully support the Chaz. I think every major city should Chaz out and become independent countries so we can finally be rid of these democratically controlled shitholes. I think that is the best strategy for the Democrats, losing every seat in the House, never having a president elected ever again. So this in the history of time, as far as I'm concerned. And you say they're building up another one in Nebraska or something, or some other state is doing it as well?
I don't even know.
Yeah, let them do it. Let them take Minneapolis. You could have it. Have the whole city.
Hey. You slow down over there.
Detroit, fuck it, man. Take Detroit, Los Angeles.
Detroit could use an overhaul.
New York, fuck independent country. You go for it, man. You just get the fuck out of here and take all of these spazzy kids with you.
Yeah, it's freaking insane. I mean, looking at it, I just think it's just it's a LARPing thing. They're all LARPing. They think, let's see, called out fire. Oh my gosh. The Chaz just called out the fire
Put
department.
That comment up.
Chaz just called the fire department to put out the fires they started. Wow.
Oh my god!
Wow.
Thanks for the update, T. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I like Al here saying Chaz out should be a shirt.
I want them all to. This places should Chaz out entirely, right? The disjointed United States, I think, is a great idea. We need more states, not less. So yeah, let him fucking take it. I think that's a great idea.
That'd be hashtag Chaz out. The movement were to push for city states.
I think that's where we're going. I honestly believe that. And like I was hearing in Minneapolis, some companies are just like, fuck it, we're not coming back. What was it? Some manufacturing company basically said, look, you didn't protect us. You don't care about our workers. I mean, not a big company, it's a manufacturing, like 50 jobs or whatever, but they're like, be somewhere where the mayor leaves room for the destruction of our business and you don't really care about your tax base. In fact, I think the mayor of Chicago is begging Walmart not to leave what is it? Chicago. The city of Chicago, because they went in there, they looted it, they raided out everything. And these are the, not only did they fail to protect, but they actually kind of encouraged it to a certain degree. They kind of pulled back the police and they let them do all of this kind of shit. So what if I was a company owner, why would I stay in a place where they don't give a shit about me?
Conk in the chat now saying it's going to be a cool Netflix biopic in a few years after it failed. It's going to be like Waco, but no.
Put that comment.
Triumphant. Yeah. Geez, we're putting all the comments up today.
And Brian makes a very good point. I just heard about this as well, that the truckers are not coming into these cities if there's no police. If they defund the police, and the truckers again are like, they are most at risk. One of them got pulled out and he was beaten to like an inch of his life. Another one ran to slow down and, I think he almost ran over some protesters. Somebody died and stuff.
Oh, yeah. So there was the one in here in Minneapolis that everyone flipped about because I-35, the big freeway that goes through north, south through Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Yeah.
There was the trucker that went through and immediately everyone was like, he's a racist, white supremacist, he wanted to kill people. And then like as time went on and this guy was essentially like removed from the public, they were like, oh, wait. Yeah, no, he probably didn't even mean it. Yeah, he didn't like. You can't expect you can't expect him to stop a truck in the middle of the freeway.
Yeah, he couldn't stop even if he wanted
because
to.
If he somehow stopped, he's fucked. But if he kept going, at least he's not going to be. Everyone somehow got out of the way. No one got hurt, but it was just one of those things. And it's like, how do you expect these truckers are just working? Like, first off, they're
not even from there.
Yeah, they're not from there. Most of them are just working on getting to the next place. They're just they're getting out there. They're going to work. They're making their money. That's that.
Correct.
They have no time or no incentive to like stick around to risk their lives for anything.
Correct. I mean, it's already one of the most dangerous jobs on the planet to be a trucker. Because, you're on the freeway, you're working a heavy load, you got bandits, you got all sorts of shit going on, especially if you have to overnight, long hauls, sleepy drivers, all sorts of problems. Now, no police and a bunch of fucking loppers. I don't blame them, man. Let's stay the fuck out of Chaz.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's just that's where we are right now in June. And we're barely halfway through June at this point, and
yeah. How exciting!
What's July gonna bring?
Oh my god, it's just too funny. It's just
predictions for July, Brook.
We'll do that at the end. I'll have to give it some thought. Yeah. But what's insane to me in this respect? Your girl, was it Ilan Omar, screaming about defunding the police? Well, I mean, she's from your state. That's what I mean. Maybe if she's your girl, you'd, kind of put some discipline on her and get her to behave. But she's there screaming about defunding the police. And then, you have all these wonderful liberals like Bill Maher and the rest of them. Like, no, they don't really mean defund the police. They just mean don't give them these military grade weapons. And then the New York Times today not today, maybe yesterday comes out with a piece like, no, we actually do mean to defund the police. Like, get rid of it entirely. So, I mean, there cannot be anybody in their right mind looking at this and saying this is a winning Democratic strategy. Trump is not only going to win, he's going to be elected emperor of the universe at this point with like an unmatched majority. The God Emperor is about to step on stage and they can't stop him.
I think we've talked about this, but the whole defund the police thing.
Yes.
It's only one side of the solution I've talked about. Like so defund is like, well, when they're arguing the defund thing, and a lot of the right is sort of saying, defund is this problem, and it's like, yeah, if you just straight up just removed police, there's no police, yeah, you're gonna have a problem. What Minneapolis is trying to do is to basically replace it with a different system. Now, say what you want. I'm saying points for trying. So they're gonna be in a few months somewhere on the other side of this. They're gonna have this new system that's gonna be basically an experiment. Is it gonna have a lot of problems? Most definitely. Is it at least better than just the militarization, the abuse of police unions and all this shit? That too. Like that, where we are right now has a lot of problems, and I think the riots and the protests have pushed them to a point to be like, okay, we gotta do something. We gotta start throwing spaghetti at the wall and hope something sticks. Like something needs to stick. Yeah, because this isn't working. Kudos for that, but the way that they're basically going to argue and try to stop that is just keep hashtag defund police, and people keep thinking, oh, no police in Minneapolis. And then everyone's just going to troll with that idea to be like, oh, no police. What happens if something hits a problem and then there's no police? I'm like, well, they want to replace it. That's the thing. So it might end before it even begins. And that's that. Whatever.
I mean, it is basically going to end before it begins, because the average voter, I mean, this, most people don't read beyond the headline of most things. You think all of that nuance and all of that understanding and explanation of creative policing is going to reach the average voting population?
Oh, it's not going to reach them, but I mean, you actually have to go read the articles of like, what is Minneapolis doing? And Minneapolis City Council is exploring these different options. Good, and I'm saying good for them on that. No one's going to know about that.
Nobody's going to know.
It's just defund police or maintain status quo is really the argument in the mainstream.
Yeah.
Which again, hashtag defund police, and they're like, oh, look at these idiots in Minneapolis just want to defund the police. And it's like, hold on. That's not what they're doing.
But I mean, the left has been doing that to Trump for years. So, I mean, it's no surprise that the right is now doing it back to them. Yeah. So they would always just take something he says out of context and just, oh my God, he's a fucking idiot. So this is what I was explaining in the last show. This is a fucking terrible optics. As much as I understand their creative policing solutions, average people don't hear that. And average people, all they hear is no cops, and that's fucking losing them shit. So,
it's funny. T is dropping some interesting points in here. July is meant to be a solar flare. August is so I'm thinking coronal mass ejection is probably what he's talking about, which is where basically it's like an EMP that burns out our electronics.
Yes.
August is a Yellowstone eruption, and then September is an alien invasion. And then you posted the thing about the Mayan calendar.
Yeah, the Mayan calendar apparently has been wrong by 8 years, so it's actually the world is actually going to end. This is the 2012 conspiracy that we had. Yeah. Apparently, they got the year wrong by 8 years. It's actually going to end next week, so we may not have to worry about all this. Nibiru might show up and solve all our problems.
Oh my God. What was the other thing?
So fucking funny.
Yeah. It's just the end of the world and all that, and everything will be fine.
I do think there is a silver lining to all of this, because the average person, the average American, who's not us, the normies are now waking up to what the fuck is going on, because we were informed because we come from an internet culture. We follow the memes, we follow the stories, we do research for the show. But average everyday people are now coming back with questions like, what the hell? Even out here in the UK, we have a statue of Winston Churchill that's just been boarded up in like metal cages and stuff like that. And people are out here like, what the hell is going on? Who the hell is Antifa? And they're asking all of these very important questions probably for the first time they've ever been exposed to any of this. And I think that's actually a very positive thing. I think it's going to wake up a lot of people to what's going on in this kind of political arena, especially with you guys and the Second Amendment. I mean, that debate is completely over. Even some of the most leftist people are now looking to get armed. And next time they say, oh, you don't need that for hunting. It's like, damn right, I don't need it for hunting. I need it for fucking rioters.
Yeah. Man. Like, if somehow you went back to the time of the Mayans and they actually did have some like seers or fortune tellers that somehow saw this, like, how fucked up do you think it looked to them to see this? Like, wait, what?
yeah, they probably wouldn't understand what the hell's going on.
They're like, what is this? People are what now?
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. I think Wendy's is also looking to close some shops. Who's another big one? There's some other.
You've heard about like right now. So right now everything's opening up again.
Pier 21, I think that's a clothing shop, right? Pier 21.
Yeah.
I think that's closing up as well.
So yeah, you're hearing a lot about these places that like. So Minnesota right now, we're in our second phase of reopening. Okay. So as of yesterday, the gyms opened.
Nice. Did you get to the gym?
I did not.
Don't tell Robert Frank.
Yeah. Oh shit, he's watching.
Yeah, he'll whoop your ass. I'll get you a cameo of you telling you to go to the gym from Robert Frank.
All right. Yeah, but I'm actually thinking about going today. So
good.
So no, yeah, it's so Minnesota's reopening. A lot of these other states are kind of following suit in different phases. I think I posted at one point the Babylon Bee article. I think it was like California is overlooking a 10-year plan to reopen or something. It was just something crazy, like, because everyone was like, we can't reopen, we got to close. Like California's talking about being closed indefinitely.
Right.
Like, but maybe August. Like, what?
It's always these leftist states. Yeah, they just cannot.
Well, we're a leftist state too, but we're just not California.
Like, yeah, that's super left.
Yeah, Minnesota's like medium rare left.
Yeah, I would say the UK is probably in line with Minnesota. We're like center left generally politically, so we're probably in line with Minnesota.
So we're opening back up, and one thing that I'm noticing is so people are going back to restaurants, and like most restaurants are trying to utilize as much outside space as possible, and they're doing what they're doing, and people are spirits are up and stuff. But one thing I'm starting to see is sort of the polarization of the fear. So. Right. We went into the quarantine and like there was a healthy sense of caution for most people, but then you had a couple that were like, if you go outside, you're gonna kill grandma.
Yeah,
and that was just kind of people are being whatever, but for the most part, people are pretty safe, and people were this whole we're in this together, stay safe, all this stuff, be healthy, wash your hands, all they just there was a general like civility to the quarantine. And now we're out of the quarantine, now we're coming out of it.
Yeah,
I see almost like the fears are kind of diverging into like now what was the fringe crazy you're gonna kill grandma turn into you're gonna kill everybody.
Right. Like, has it escalated to that point?
There's a handful of people that I've interacted with where it's like the fear and the concern has like become irrational.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm just like, where is this coming from? So I'll just, without going too much into detail, but basically I was going to hang out with some people and these people have so it's they live, it's a couple of friends that live in this place, and they have roommates, and some of the roommates just have these very deep seated sort of like fears about the whole thing. Now, granted, these are also people who have gone to protests.
Right.
So they've
In
gone
the
to
midst
protest.
without social distancing.
They've gone to protest. They've done all this stuff, and then they go home, and people can't come over to hang out
Yeah.
but COVID. And I'm like, hold on, like what?
Weren't you just at a protest?
You were at a protest, and then the next moment they're posting about hanging out with family and friends and going to people's houses, and there's these pictures of them like playing with their kids and stuff, and I'm like, hold on,
yeah.
What is this?
The hypocrisy that has come out from,
and I'm kind of like, yeah.
Go ahead, finish your point.
Oh, I was gonna say, it's like, I'm not gonna sit here and like, you need to have me over because I'm your friend or whatever. But at the same time, come on, really?
Stop being a bitch. No, I completely get that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, well, yeah. Finish your point.
Oh no, you go ahead. I'm good.
No, I was gonna say the same thing is happening out here, and I think there was a ridiculous statement. I think it was on Fox News, but we had it on the BBC as well, where the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, who, he's just, anyway, pissing me off. He's all in solidarity with the Black Lives Movement protests and all these different types of things. But at the same time, he's warning people that if they go out, same kind of thing, they're going to kill everybody, the revirus, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, it's absolutely ridiculous. Some people are just trying to open their shop. They have people wait at the door if it's a small shop, just trying to get by. And the mayor, like weeks ago, was sending the police to shut down flower shops and cobblers and like all these little small businesses because, they didn't want to spread the disease. But the minute the BLM, Black Lives Matter protests show up, nothing. He's completely in support of that. And then this statement that I was telling you about flashes on the BBC, where people are advised to maintain social distancing except in the event of a protest. It's like, oh, wow. Protesting is now the cure to COVID. Who fucking knew that,
Yeah, you can go protest if it's, if it's for a worthy cause. COVID just disappears. Like, I saw something really funny, and someone said, someone said like, oh, so COVID is supposedly disproportionately affecting African Americans.
Yeah, minorities
and such. And they said, but somehow COVID is disproportionately not spreading through protests.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, what?
I mean, even out here in the UK, and I still don't understand why we have protests in the UK. As I explained in a previous show, we've had much bigger issues out here than what they're discussing. But here's the shit. We've started this ridiculous campaign of tearing down statues that you guys have been dealing with. A statue of some apparent slave trader down in Brixton or something, that they tore down the statue, and now the mayor of London is going to review street names and statues, and it's just fucking bullshit, right? So all of that is going on. And of course, there is a response from the British people who are patriots. As I just told you about, the Winston Churchill statue is now boarded up because it's been defaced by a lot of these hooligans and stuff. And I have to call them hooligans. So the mayor is they've smashed shops, they've beat up police. 27 police have died. 3 horses have been injured from bricks that have been thrown at them. And of course, the BBC is saying, "Oh, it's peaceful protest. It's all peaceful, right?"
CNN with the burning building behind them.
Yeah, it's mostly peaceful, right? Anyway, yesterday, in response to all of this, Black Lives Matters protesting, a lot of patriots and veterans decided to go out to protect the statues, like our World War I, World War II veteran monuments. And all these different locations, Winston Churchill, and so on and so on and so on. And of course, the spin from the BBC and these other places when it was, 27 cops killed, well, or injured, and horses dead, and all this other kind of stuff, it's mostly peaceful protest. But when the patriots come out to defend British history, it's all far right extremist. And, they're expecting property damage. And the mayor suddenly comes out and says, don't come out because we're afraid of vandalism and graffiti and all that other kind of stuff. Crickets when it already happened with kind of the left wing swing of these protesters that hurt cops and all this other stuff. Crickets, mostly peaceful. But when the patriots come out, they're all right wing, far right extremists, fucking neo-Nazis for defending their statues and all this stuff. The hypocrisy is just off the goddamn scale. Absolutely.
I don't know if you saw one. It was I saw a picture taken of the statue, this one statue being defaced in Philadelphia, I think.
Yeah.
Of an abolitionist.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so they tried to deface this. And so it's a picture. It's just kind of made an impression on me. I saw this. Yeah, so it's just a statue and someone's standing on it to like try to deface it, and it's just some chick that's like putting paint on it and stuff, almost like kind of like just spiting it and whatever. And then it just said in the caption that said, "This is a statue of this person in like Philadelphia who was an abolitionist before the abolition movement was even really a thing.
Right,
built schools for black kids." Had been doing what he was doing 30 years before slavery officially ended. All this stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, wow. Like, and this is what it comes down to is the whole, the argument for, if we don't learn from history, we're doomed to repeat it kind of thing.
Correct.
Now, I can understand you see these statues that are being defaced and destroyed. So the big one that affects that's relevant to here is the St. Paul, the capital of Minnesota. The state capital had a Christopher Columbus statue.
Right.
Now people want to argue, okay, Christopher Columbus, genocidal colonist, didn't discover shit. Was a glorified, capitalist of his time, spices, slavery, all this stuff. Okay, but this is like, do you know who made that statue? Like, you look at the history of that statue. That statue was given. Italian Americans gifted it to the state in the early 1900s.
Yeah, exactly. I think
that's all it is. It was a gift.
Story. Yeah,
it's like, but who's going to go and deface the Statue of Liberty because the French gave it to us?
Correct.
Now, granted, it's not a person. It's very sort of neutral in what it is representing, at least in terms of historical context.
Correct.
But what if in 100 years, like, France somehow attacked America? Like, are people going to go deface that statue?
The pyramids were built by slaves.
Huh?
The pyramids were built by slaves.
Yeah, and
are we going to tear down the pyramids?
Right. It's like,
we had the same thing we had Gandhi. We had fucking a statue of Gandhi defaced out here in the UK. Like,
yeah, I'm talking to these people and I'm hearing a lot of this, like, talking about, Americans should apologize or like be aware of like their history. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, name me one country that didn't have a dark past.
Correct.
Like power, land, just war, all this stuff.
Empire, and all colonization, all of it. Every country's done it.
Feudalism, just war and peace, all this stuff. Like every country goes through that. And then when you really dig deep, you find out, every race has been racist, slaves, and conquerors, and the conquered at different points in history.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely.
Now, is it all equally the same? Like, you want to sit there and, have your little chart about which group was more oppressed than the other? Who's to say who's going to be really oppressed in like 500 years from now?
If we really want to play this game, we should consider talking about reparation for the Jews. right? I mean,
Mhm.
slavery goes all the way back to fucking Egypt, right? And they've been exiled from Europe and Russia and all these other types of things.
But because that the narrative states that they don't need reparations because it's funny how the far right and the far left tend to agree on this sort of
On that,
contempt for Jews, which I find is interesting. Like
yeah,
I'll
they have
find
that in common.
when you look at the left, they'll basically kind of like say like so they'll throw Jews in with white people and they'll say like the success and everything is like this result of um uh anti what is it? They'll look at it and kind of get really anti-Jew, but then like you'll look at the right and then they're anti-Jew for other reasons. So it's like it's funny how that is. But real quick, since we're at the 45-minute mark, I saw that.
Soap time.
Soap time, yeah. Tactical soap, 10k rum is the thing. Yeah, she fucking sent me a chat sometime. 10k rum is the coupon code 10KRUM at tacticalsoap.com. Gets you 10% off all your purchases and a little kickback to us. Subscribestar.com/shit-or-preachers is how you can support the show. Do check those out. And back to the show. Okay, so
I see T is in the chat saying there was an illegal rave in Manchester. T, send me a message about that. I'm going to be in Manchester in a couple of weeks. Let me know where that party's happening.
To Brian's concern though that the left loves the Jews. Surprisingly, when you dig deep enough into the left, you actually get some weird anti-Jew, anti-Semitic views because I mean, you look at some of the biggest, leftist sort of politicians and figures. You have Ilhan Omar, who won't just full out admit that she's anti-Semitic. You'll look at I don't know that many leftist politicians in the US. So yeah, but I mean, you look at your leftist politicians and you look like how the there's this weird union between sort of like the intersectional feminist left and Muslims.
Right.
Sort of this, you get this weird little thing in there, and then somehow out of that, you get it's very fringe, but you do see this sort of anti-Semitic attitude on at least in the far left, similar to the far right, for different reasons. And then then you'll get the anti-Semitism that comes out of like the the Black Israelite movement, which is connected more to the left. That to Brian's comment there, that's that. But then again, both different reasons there, Brian. I'm not gonna get too much into it because then we start getting into weird conspiracy theories, in my opinion. Yeah, I would need proof from you too. So,
we'll save that for another show. But we do know that there is anti-Semitism on the left and the right. They actually have a lot of things in common, the extreme left and the extreme right.
It's almost like horseshoe theory.
Yeah. Because both sides seem to believe in segregation all of a sudden. Because we were talking about the Chaz and the garden. And now, they put this thing up and they're trying to plant food. Obviously, none of them actually even know what a fucking garden is, or a farm for that matter. But it went and segregated one and said, well, this garden is just for black people and minorities, or something along those lines. So the left and the alt-right and the extreme left seem to both believe in segregations. They both have their various forms of anti-Semitism. A lot of people are like, why don't these people just work together? Like, if that's what's going on.
Right.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy.
You know
what's really funny about this whole thing? There was actually a University of California, Berkeley professor, sociologist, who wrote a response to all of this kind of Black Lives Matter sort of narrative, the narrative that's coming out. So the university put out a statement, obviously very pro BLM and all these types of things. And this person wrote this letter anonymously, basically saying, she was terrified of the fact that nobody was challenging this narrative. That, all of humans, all of the problems in the black community in the United States are solely the result of white people completely removing agency from every black person in the planet, but in the country. And you do not see the same type of response from the Japanese community that were thrown into internment camps, the Jewish community, again, which has been persecuted all around the world, the Chinese, which were basically slave labor building the railroads, as you should know. You don't see that anywhere except in the black community. And it completely robs them of any kind of responsibility. So this professor wrote this entire letter. And at the end, they were basically saying, look, I'm writing this anonymously because I'm absolutely certain this will cost me my job if anybody found out. And it was a black person who did, a black woman, I think.
Yeah, I never really understood the whole thing with that when it comes to these narratives about different races and different levels of oppression and success.
Yeah.
And this is and I really try not to delve into this with again, to our listeners.
No,
I have a lot of these conversations with all different groups all across the political spectrum, far left, far right, extreme centrist, whatever you want to call it, like everything. And I try to hear it all out. And from what I've heard, like just one of the things that's really interesting is you look at all the, oppressed groups in the US. So you have your blacks and your Asians pretty much are the two main ones. And then more recently there's the talk of Mexicans, Hispanics, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you look at these
the Irish, the Italians. Yeah.
Right. Before immigration was really taking off and different things. So you look at this and okay, so we break it down and I kind of go, okay, so obviously historically blacks have the most oppression because slavery, the laws and all this stuff. Okay, fine, great. I totally agree to that. So then you look at Asians, there's actual laws in the books. Like there was the Chinese Exclusion Act. People talk about how that actually pushed the Chinese community in the US to do different things. So, you have your Chinatowns, but then you also
segregation.
You had segregation, but then they actually made it work.
Yes.
To a degree. And so I kind of okay, so here's the thing. And then I hear a lot of these arguments regarding the sort of the historic wealth inequality between blacks and whites.
Yeah.
So although they'll state all these things, which are all very valid points to kind of go, okay, this happened, therefore this happened, therefore that happened. And then over time, over generation after generation, basically there's this huge wealth gap because of this understanding that wealth kind of transfers from generation to generation, which kind of a little bit.
That's not entirely how it works. I agree.
There's something to it, definitely. But
yeah. I mean, if you're a Rockefeller, you're probably
when you're looking side by side, each demographic, and you're looking at the wealth they're acquiring, and then you look at the oppression that's working against them, I kind of go, okay. So not only did Asians experience, at least in a degree of oppression, with laws, with prejudice, with social, sort of social prejudices, racism, and all this, being forced to work on railroads, the mines, whatever you want to call it, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Not only did they not fall behind, but have actually overcome and surpassed white people.
Yes. Correct.
How the fuck did that happen?
I'll take it one further, right? So if the US is systematically racism, right, which is systematic racism, so it's designed to help the white man or whatever the fuck the theory is, right? The Asians have obviously proved that's not the case. The Jews have obviously proved that's not the case because those are the two highest earning echelons of what's the word? The earning potential of the population are the Jews and the Asians, right? Then come the whites. But even further than that, and this is why it shows that it's not systematically racism. Blacks that come from Africa and blacks that come from the Caribbean are earning more money than the native blacks. And it's obviously not a race thing because these people are black as well. It's just there's more something black. Else. What's that?
More black.
Yeah, it's. I mean, there's something else that's at play. And then another research paper that came out, and I mean, we're probably going to get banned from YouTube for this. I'll never get employment in this country saying these things. But there's another research paper that basically pointed to the Italians, the Jews, the Chinese, the Japanese, and the Swedes, like basically every immigrant group that has come from a native country to the US. And they all start out basically poor. You know, they generally speaking, they all start off with in a kind of low end of the economic strata. But within 1 and 2 generations, all of them have accumulated to either middle class to upper middle class, possibly even into the rich, kind of demographics within 1 or 2 generations, except the Africans that were there. The Africans have been there probably longer than a lot of them. And for some reason, and this probably has a lot to do, this is not a racist thing, this is a policy thing, I believe. This is like democratic policies that have been playing in them. That has definitely played into all of that. And as I say, you could look at Obama that got into one of the highest offices in the world. The Attorney General, that he had was also black. Again, one of the most powerful positions in the world. There is nothing that's endemic within the system from keeping a black person from having basically any job they want. So all of that's kind of playing out. Like we're looking at this melting pot and we're seeing different groups excel and, do better and whatever. But there's only one demographic that when something like this is taking place, where there's an appearance of injustice, they're kind of lashing out. We didn't see that with the Japanese. We didn't see that with the Chinese. As I say, it's not just the blacks have been oppressed. They've been placed. The Irish had it for a season.
And
I've
got friends and such that I talk to that are, everyone that wants to get triggered in the comments, or viewers down the line that want to get triggered because I am a white person, not entirely, but I'm a white person saying I've got black friends. But yeah, I've got black friends that, they live their life, they do what they're doing, and somewhere down the line they basically they deal with actually racism or prejudice or just getting picked on by other black people. Because either it's and these are people who are living in some areas in Minnesota and such that are not like the roughest, but definitely there's a demographic there, and they'll say just because they want to go off and pursue certain dreams or aspirations, they get shit for that.
Yeah.
And that's not really, I mean, there's a racial element, but I think it's not really because of the race. It's a cultural thing.
That was the distinction I was making when you talk about the Nigerians and the West Indians, who are both black. They're not coming with that same culture, and they're not coming with that same mindset. That's something that's inherent in the American black population. So you're completely right. It's a cultural thing.
You'll watch comedians, you'll watch people that are talking about how they'll joke and people will laugh, but it doesn't lead to change. Is you'll get these they'll say they'll joke about how Africans that will disown American blacks.
Yeah.
Kind of no, you're not black. And then
you're not African. They'll say that. Yeah.
You're, you say African American, you say black. It's no, they'll call them other words, but they'll say you're the
hard R.
They'll say you're the hard R N word, and they'll say that, and then it's and people will laugh, and you'll watch these comedians joke about this, and then even what was it? There was the whole bit that Chris Rock did. Even some of these just bigger black comics will joke about the really successful ones, and it's so what's the problem here? Where's going to be the changes? No, I'm not sitting here doing some victim blaming, you got to straighten up. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying just there needs to be
the standard narrative is not sufficient. The idea that all of the problems in the black community is Whitey's fault is
Yeah,
severely
because
lacking.
now from a lot of the stuff that's going on lately, um, there's definitely like a lot of like there's all these narratives, all these stories that are coming out. A lot of them I'm seeing are just kind of not really founded in taking into consideration all the factors, but there's a
Yeah.
couple that actually make sense. For example, like so you and I kind of talked about the kind of like how to go about the protesting and such.
Hmm.
Like without getting too much, there's a lot of people that are trying to compare like the Virginia protests versus these protests and how the Virginia protests didn't really go south. They
Right.
didn't really go into chaos. So there's all, and then people try to spin it as sort of a white privilege narrative.
Right.
And while there might be something with that, but it's like they completely go at it as a purely a racist
A
problem
racist. Yeah.
instead of looking at like while still being a somewhat racist, like there's other problems layered into that
Other
that could
factors.
some that are racist, some that are not.
Correct.
And people don't really tackle it that way. They just kind of say, "Oh, because racism, therefore this," and they don't really look at it like, well, why? Like there are cases of actual racism in U.S. history that people can address to like point out, like, okay, this is why this is, and
Sure.
this becomes more of a cultural and a belief thing rather than really much of a race thing. But it was
Sure.
racial. There was a racial component to it, so people don't really look
Correct.
at that. They'll just kind of blanket statement, it's all racism. Like
Yeah.
they'll
It's all
say,
privilege.
like
It's all,
racism.
yeah.
They'll say like slavery was entirely a white man's thing, and then
Right.
but then you look at it and you go, wait, oh, the black people in Africa were literally selling their own
They were
people as
selling their own
slaves.
people. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, is that to go and say like who's more racist than another group? No, but it's just it adds a layer of nuance to the story to actually change how you look at it. It's not really. Then it becomes it's not really about it wasn't a matter of racism per se, but more of a matter of opportunism and convenience,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
which
I,
which makes it simpler, but also more complicated because of people's narratives that they hold.
correct. Correct. I mean, we had some woman that came out here the other day, basically in the parliament, a Labour MP, member of parliament. That's what MP means. Basically calling the United Kingdom one of the most racist countries on earth, and the usual BLM kind of spiel in the House of Parliament. And our Home Secretary, P.T. Patel, who's Indian, I believe she's Indian, either Indian or Pakistani. I think she's Indian. Who's also, she got shit in school. She was called a Paki, and she was, she's had it. But the United Kingdom, when they had the Commonwealth and the Empire, was one of the first countries to abolish slavery within the Commonwealth. In fact, the whole abolitionist movement, if you look back through history, started in the West. You don't start to see Asia, Africa, or even South America really start to abolish it. It started in like Europe. England was one of the first. Then it went out to the colonies. And it was such a big deal. In the UK, they basically took out a massive loan to buy all of the slaves in the Commonwealth, to buy their freedom. And it cost us, I don't know how many, but it was millions of pounds back then. It's probably billions in today's money. And we've only just paid that off. However, 150 years ago that was taken out. I think we finished paying it in 2005 or 2015 or something like that. Now, it's not reparations. It's not paying the individual slaves, but it bought freedom for all of them. And then the British Army went out, the Navy, sorry, to blockade Africa, to stop the slave trade. And all of this was done with humongous costs to the English and the Scots and the British people and stuff like that. None of that counts. None of it. This is still the most racist country on the planet. And it boggles the mind that Qatar in 2005 abolished slavery again. And to this day, slaves are being sold in Libya and in the Middle East. But you want to pick on America and you want to pick on the UK?
We were one of America was one of the first countries to abolish not abolish racism, abolish slavery. Sorry.
Slavery, yeah. I mean, and of course, I understand redlining, I understand Jim Crow. Yes, yes, yes. But in terms of the institution of slavery, it started in the West. There's no question of that.
Not to turn into like some sort of like, it's funny too, like there are realities in history that people should look at to go and say, like, so when it comes to a lot of these oppression narratives, like, because this and this, therefore sexism, therefore racism, therefore bigotry, therefore all this stuff, transphobia, homophobia, whatever all the trigger words out there to point out all the stuff that is wrong with the heteronormative patriarchy in military industrial complex, whatever, like the longest acronym you could think of in the world.
Yes.
You throw all this out there, and then it's all just blanket narratives. Instead, when you could break it down to be like, oh, okay, so for example, women's suffrage. So if I know we're getting into all the hot topics.
Yeah, we're going. Yeah, we're doomed.
We are completely screwed.
This will be the last show, guys. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, we haven't even hit 100 shows yet. No, but you know what I'm getting at. Like, there's all these narratives are all layered with so much nuance, with all these nuanced, like, real issues in it that no one really addresses it. Women's suffrage didn't have a lot of traction because people didn't want the right to vote. Women didn't want the right to vote because they would include the right to. There would be the compulsion to have to also sign up for the draft. Well, they didn't want to be a part of the draft. So then it got worked out to the point where women would get the right to vote without the necessity to be part of the draft. Yeah. So then that turns into that, and then cancel taking party. Yeah, and then of course, like I said, the whole thing was slavery. How like black people sold their own people as slaves, and then slavery is still going on in parts of Africa, parts of the Middle East, and all this stuff. The first abolitionists, the first mainstream sort of abolition like movement and everything. Obviously, I mean, yeah, white people had to vote these laws into place to change everything. Men had to vote the laws into place to give women rights in this country. Yes. And then they say, oh, the white savior thing is problematic. And I'm like, okay, I can get where you're coming from there. Everything's great there. And then you have the protests going on in Minneapolis. And when a black man stands out to like protest against the cops, white people stand up around him. And they're like, see, people using their white privilege to protect black people. I thought the white savior was problematic.
It's only problematic when they say it's problematic, not when it serves their purpose.
So it's just it's not even double think anymore. It's like triple think.
It's just... Or even the comedy of a lot of these people coming out in blackface. Have you seen this?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
at first it was a
okay
joke
now,
and then now it's like I can't. It's blackface. I can't breathe. Yeah, I'm watching, and we'll lighten it up a little bit here at the end.
Yeah.
Because I started seeing some of this stuff. Okay, you've heard about the show Space Force?
Yes. The comedy thing on Netflix now. With
have you
Carell,
watched it?
Isn't it? No, I haven't seen it yet. No, I haven't watched it.
Carell, Malkovich.
I like John Malkovich. She's cool.
They make an interesting. A couple of guys kind of doing that show. I started watching it because there's this Asian comedian in there, Chinese comedian, Jimmy O Yang. He was in that show everyone talks about, Silicon Valley. He played like a very stereotypically Asian guy.
Not sure. What's his name?
Jimmy O Yang.
Okay, I'll pull him up.
So he was on Rogan a few days ago.
Okay.
So I'm watching.
Okay.
Yeah. So I watched that, and because he talks about there's a scene where actually his dad makes an appearance. It's a funny story. Like you listen to his whole story. He's this Chinese comedian. Obviously did the non-Chinese thing of becoming a comedian. His parents were kind of like, wanted him to be like in, I think, the finance industry. But he was just like, no, I'm going to go do comedy. So he did the typical grind, however many years honing his craft, eventually getting on Silicon Valley, and then kind of going off and doing his whole stand-up thing. And when he started doing acting and stuff, he was also in the movie Patriots Day and all this. But it was funny. He said his dad, like, just never really like showed like that actual like, I'm proud of you kind of thing. Was just like, oh, you know,
Yeah.
acting is so easy. Even you can do it. That was his rationale.
Yeah.
And then so he snapped back. He kind of tried to kind of come back and said, "Well, Dad, if you think it's so easy, why don't you do it?" So he helped his dad like book auditions and stuff. And his dad apparently met extreme success. He booked
Really?
like the 6 out of the 10 gigs he auditioned for. He's one of the stars on the basically what he called the Big Bang Theory of China.
Right.
Like 500 million
Wow.
people watched this show, and his dad just like took off. And then his like his family in Shanghai are calling them up. Man, Jimmy must have got all his acting skills from you. Like his dad's 70 years old and then met his like acting career. Like what the hell happened?
That's
And then his
cool.
dad has like a little cameo in Space Force.
Right.
It was just funny, like how that all worked.
That's
and
pretty
then
cool.
Rogan's laughing hearing all this, and he goes, "Well, and then Jimmy's like, well, yeah, now my dad is like kind of contemplating if he wants to do comedy."
Oh, really?
And then Rogan's like, I just need to get a group of my friends to help your dad out to make sure he kills, just to fuck with you, like.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I like that. I haven't seen the show yet. I'll check it out though.
But yeah, I mean it's layered with, I mean, it's a Netflix show. It's gonna have a lot of it's gonna have a lot of that, like it's funny. They do have a lot of like, there is a balance to it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, because there's different things they're doing. It's the Space Force, so they have I think in the very beginning of it, they basically say like POTUS. It is Trump who's the president, but you only hear him called POTUS. You never hear them say his name. But they have little things.
Oh, like it's Trump's birthday today, so happy birthday to the president of the United States.
Yes. No, what's funny is I literally just watched the episode where it was POTUS's birthday, and they had to do a special thing.
In Space Force? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they had to do like a special thing, and one of the scientists had to like basically name a star after the president.
Oh, cool. Okay.
But there was
funny? Is it at least funny? It's supposed to be funny, right?
It's like corny. It's kind of campy, corny kind of fun. Yeah. It's they have their little like, yeah, there's a little bit of that. There's like a Carell is this like he's this decorated. He's a 4-star general. And he's thinking like he's going to take over as the head of the Air Force, but instead he becomes head of the Space Force.
Right.
And the whole vision from POTUS was Boots on the Moon 2024.
Okay.
They called it.
So it's got like 4 years to get there, kind of thing.
Yeah. So the whole first season is actually like these different scenarios they're met with, like they're launching their first few satellites, and then they start having some stuff with the moon. Like the big thing becomes like having a habitat on the moon.
Right.
So this all kind of plays out that way, and it's just showing how they're like, Carell and Malkovich are kind of going back and forth. Like Carell is like the stereotypical military brute and brawn kind of thing. Like if I can't solve the problem, I throw a bomb at it.
Right.
And then Malkovich is kind of like the stereotypical like scientist type, we need to, he's very much save the world,
right.
They kind of make a joke about whole like, global warming and all this stuff. So they're kind of going back and forth. So then but then they'll show moments where like Carell will act on instinct and make a good decision. Whereas Malkovich and him would kind of have little like they hate each other, conflict. But they'll have but they'll have a lot of little moments where they'll kind of like click on something.
Cool. I'll check it out. I don't think
it's like 30 some minutes. It's like half-hour episodes, which is good. It's not like a full hour episode.
Okay.
There's a couple. You'll see some like different actors in there. So it's a bit of a lefty kind of show in some ways, but it kind of balances out because they'll throw in a couple of jokes. Like if it's the minority actor,
Yeah.
he'll throw out a racist joke.
Right. Cool. I didn't think they still did that.
Well, there's this one joke they just dropped. It was kind of funny. Like, it's very left, but at the same time, they dropped it in there.
Spoilers alert.
Spoiler alert, everyone. They try to go to the moon.
Uh-huh.
And so the captain of this mission is a black woman.
Right.
And so she's like trying to figure out, what do I say? Like, as the first black American woman that goes on the moon, what am I going to say when I get there?
Yeah.
And so they're figuring this all out. And then she's talking to Jimmy Yang's character. He's this Chinese scientist that works for the American Space Force. And they're deciding, and she's like, what if I said it's good to be back on the moon? And he's like, but you've never been there before. And he goes, oh, she's like, oh, okay. He goes, and he looked at her and he goes, what if you said, there goes the neighborhood?
Oh, shit.
And then she just kind of gives him this dirty look. And I'm like, did you just put that in there? Like,
that's funny.
But it's, it's an Asian talking to a black woman. So it's like,
okay. Yeah.
Like, like,
oh no.
Are you caught up on Rick and Morty?
Yeah, the season's finished. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. You remember the one where it was the whole episode was like them talking about literary plot devices, and it was like this huge metaphor. It was the one where they're on the train.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that was different
people.
Yeah.
That was like a really weird one.
It was very confusing, yes.
But then like Rick is like, Morty, we need to follow this thing. We need two women talking to each other for more than a few sentences. And then they just made this like parody of like Summer and Morty's mom, just like, hello, daughter. How are you doing today? We are totally not talking about this other, like, making fun of that, but in a way while still kind of playing into it. Like,
what's that called? It's the feminist thing, the something law.
It's like a feminist theory that basically says, like, it passed the test if you have two female characters
talk for like 5 minutes for not about a man.
Not about men, not about the main plot. Like, they have an independent thing, and so they threw it in, and he's like, "We got to pass the test. We got to do this," and then it like happens, but it's like totally manufactured. So it's like, oh, it's only okay if it's like because that show, while like the creators and stuff are very left leaning, and you can see they're very, they're kind of soy boys in their own way. They really don't touch on that much. Like, though they kind of make fun of bigger concepts rather than making it about political things. Like,
sure,
everyone remembers kind of the whole thing with the episode where they dealt with the president.
Oh, which one? Rick and Morty?
Rick and Morty, where the one where they were like doing all the stuff for the president, and it was just pissing him off.
Yes,
the what was it, the Israel Midwest, like, it's
totally obvious, totally easy peace plan.
And then and then but it wasn't like it wasn't a Trump president. It was like it was a black president. So it's like it wasn't really about the race thing or political thing. It was just, oh, America thinks they can do whatever they want. Let's exaggerate it in an episode, and then he jokes about how, like, all the national secrets, the JFK Coke tunnels, and then the Nixon, the Abraham Lincoln slave underground or whatever. He goes, he didn't see them all. Like, there's all these jokes, and somehow they remain mostly apolitical.
Yeah. I mean, comedy does have a stealth to be able to, and you need that. You need the comedy to be able to discuss some hot button issues, and get away with it. I mean, I don't know if you saw the Chappelle special that came out.
Did you watch that? The one it's called 856 or 846 or something?
846. I have it queued, but I haven't watched it yet.
So he got approval from the Ohio governor to do this.
Yeah, to do a show.
He basically, it was like a wedding pavilion thing. He'd had all the social distancing parameters. So the beginning of the clip, it's showing people showing up, and then they have all the staff that's like getting people's temperatures, getting the masks. So they're all wearing Chappelle masks. They have like a little
I've seen the adverts and some clips about it.
So they're talking about all this, and then it's just him. It's really, it's like it's almost a half-hour video of him talking about the whole situation. And it's not like more of the same. He's a black man talking about the whole thing. It's actually a bit different. I
Right.
think it's just this very raw. It's a raw take. It's a very raw view of kind of what he's seeing, not the
Yeah.
typical because he's tired of like the celebrity thing. Like he was like, well, everyone was wanting me to talk about this, and he goes, and here I am talking about it. He goes, but I didn't want to talk about it right away because it's not for me to talk about.
Yeah.
He goes, it's for you guys to talk about, which I thought was interesting because it's you see all the pandering, what was it? You saw the black and white video of the celebrities, I voted for this. I did this. I'm responsible.
I take responsibility. Oh,
and I'm sitting here, I'm just like, I'm like,
no.
Chappelle was like
the best pandering.
Yeah, the Chappelle's understanding like I'm a rich black man, so I really shouldn't be talking about I can talk about this because you guys want me to talk about this, but I'm only doing because you want me to. I'm not doing it because I got to pander. He goes and he's acknowledging you guys got to talk about this.
I mean, I was going to touch on the pandering thing because we saw two bits of that, and again, the hypocrisy of the left and right over this thing. So remember when Trump left the White House and he did his dramatic walk across to the church, and he holds up a Bible and he did his photo op and all that kind of stuff, and of course everybody was going ape shit about that, like he threw dispersed the crowd with tear gas and whatever for the photo op and whatever. It was brilliant television. I did watch that clip and it's like, wow, he understands television. But then you get the flip side of that where the Democrats are all kneeling in their, slave trader garb. And, for some fucking, it's the same goddamn thing. It's the same kind of pandering that the Democrats are now doing to the black people. Mm-hmm. And this is just the name of the game. And these people are so not self-aware of what's going on. It's looking really silly to a lot of people who are actually paying attention,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean, did you see that? And the Democrats and their kneeling?
Yeah, so I posted a meme in a one group that I'm in. It's them kneeling, and then they have their sashes, and it says "Black Pander."
Yeah, basically. And apparently the sash was actually some tribe that was selling slaves.
Oh, wow.
I can't remember the name of it, but it was like the colors of the slave sellers in Africa that they were wearing. So they really fucked that shit up. Yeah. These people don't know what they're doing. None of these fucking politicians know what's going on.
Yeah, it's
yeah, it's definitely. So what is your prediction for what are we are in July? What is the end of the world scenario for July?
End of world scenario for July. I'm thinking sorry. I'm getting messages from my boss.
Oh, well, I mean, we're wrapping up now. Just
yeah, no, we're good. Predictions for July. Let's see, we got the racism out of the way.
We got the racism out of the way. Have we had any good flooding? I don't know. Have we had any good floods? Yeah, we did. I think earlier this year
I got a flash
India.
flood warning on my phone last week because of a storm, some storms that came through.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. Yeah, yes, Brian in the show. He was distracted. Really, buddy? You did so?
Yeah. I see that, Brian. Thank you so much.
Thank you for telling us. We wouldn't have known otherwise. No, I don't really know what to really. I mean, it's so crazy. I talked about the animal thing for June, and literally the next week there was talks of certain zoos letting out their animals, but it was mostly in the countryside, so it didn't really affect the cities as much.
Yes,
but I mean, there's so much crazy stuff nowadays. I think it all has to do with who controls the narrative to get news out there. So it's tough to say how they how they play it up. What's going to be the next thing? It's going to be something that's going to be blamed on Trump for sure.
Well, yeah. What else is new?
Maybe it's just going to be like the resurgence of cases.
So possible second wave, you think?
COVID-20 electric boogaloo. Um,
I mean, that's definitely possible given the rioting and stuff like that. There
because
probably will
there's
be.
already the talk of the second wave of there was the talk of second wave infections back in like April in China,
Yes. Yeah.
and
Beijing has
now
just gone into lockdown as well.
yeah. So then I think there could be a second wave. I mean, if we go into another lockdown,
It's bad. It's bad. I don't think they'll lock it down.
I mean,
They'll start to reduce
yeah.
some things, but not
I
full
mean,
lockdown.
unfortunately, the anarchist within me is just kind of just it's like
Having
you're
a wet
watching.
dream.
Yeah, I'm watching this fire just go up. This fire that is society and just people's comfort with the status quo of everyday life, and I'm like, ooh, just
Watch it burn.
yeah, it's not that I don't care about people. It's not that I love seeing people suffer or whatever. No, it isn't. It's more of just the general, like it's like we kind of talked about with Religion Zero. It's like if you're not fully on questioning things and sort of coming to terms with your beliefs and your differences and such, you kind of have this sort of stagnation, I think.
Yeah.
And I think like the constant sort of the challenge, the the fire, the dumpster fire that is um America. Um I kind of like just watch and go, wow, like it's you know I might as well try to stay warm and enjoy the show than joining with the people who are just throwing on little cups of water into this giant fire.
Right.
Um, hoping that it burns itself out to the point that something new will grow in its place, or it gets put out and some people try to fix it. So that's the thing. Is like
Enjoy
one
the
hand,
decline kind of attitude.
it is. I mean,
Yeah.
I know if everyone remembers our friends, Masculine Geek, we had Rob. Rob that's kind of his thing is, let him burn is his whole thing. And then him and some others have read Aaron Clary's Enjoy the Decline book. It's just
Right.
kind of the watch things burn. Your TradCon manosphere types wouldn't really like that. But, that's kind of how I'm seeing is like, I think the real red pill, because it's like they think it's black pill, but it's like no, it's like I'm still going to do what I'm going to do. I'm going to adapt to the situation. That's the
Right.
real. Yeah, Brian brings up Dormant Dynasty, which is formerly known as Asian Capitalist.
Asian capitalists.
But we're gonna have to talk to them at some point too. Again,
Cool. We had a great time with them.
oh yeah. So yeah, something with there's probably I'm thinking resurgence of COVID. Blame it on Trump again.
Yes.
That's that. Maybe later in the year. Not that I want this to happen, but I think it could happen.
Yeah.
Later in the year, I think there's probably going to be another police incident with a black man.
I mean, there was one just recently, actually. Some black man was shot in a drive-through in Wisconsin.
I'm saying a high-profile one that will blow up again.
You think so?
Yeah.
All right, we'll see. Yeah, possibly. So are you hinting at a boogaloo then? Is that what's going on?
There's that concern. I know Tim Pool was really talking about it. Surprisingly, he was trying to convince Adam, his other guy, that's his co-host, to be like really consider the possibility because of the problem with
it was one of the generals or something was kind of talking against Trump.
Generals are talking against Trump. If Trump wins again and the Democrats can convince enough of the public that the election was fake or cheated, enough people, enough of this Chaz business going on, all of that can turn into just kind of a perfect storm for conditions for a small scale internal conflict. And then he dropped in there, he said, and that would be a perfect time for China to invade.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somehow.
Tim tends to be pretty up to date on it. I don't think it's going to get to that point. I mean, it could, but I think that's a bit extreme. Yeah.
I'm like I'm majority feeling that it's not, but there's just I'm more of like hoping it doesn't, rather than kind of feeling it won't.
I'm pretty on the feeling it won't happen, because I'm even looking at the riots and stuff like that, and all of this, Chaz experiment. Mm-hmm. It's not going to last, right? The Chaz, you've heard Tim Pool talk about his time at Occupy Wall Street, where coming down to the end of it, I think they gave them some farmland to kind of like, go and live your fucking commune thing. Do you know how long they were there? Like 2 days. Because it's fucking hard work. Like, working on a farm is, you got to get up at the crack of dawn. You got to do all this. They didn't want to fucking do that. Right, and it's the same thing with the Chaz thing. They're running out of food. They're running out of, you saw the request for food, right? I don't know if it's a legitimate tweet or not, but they wanted vegetables. They wanted fruit. They wanted soy, vegan products, and all this other kind of shit. I mean, if there's ever a show of privilege, that's definitely fucking it. You're in this place asking for fucking vegan food. It's not going to last. There's no way these people could ever rough it a day in their life. So I think that it's not going to escalate. I don't think it's going to escalate.
Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of my attitude.
Well, on that note, I think we're going to wrap it up there.
Cool. Good show.
Now, yeah. Once again, 10k Rum coupon code for 10% off tactical soap. If you want to support the show monthly, subscribestar.com/shitlord-preachers. Check out those two if you want to support the show, get some soap, support the show. Subscribe to the channel, of course. Subscribe to us on podcasting platforms. Like the video, leave a comment, share it with someone if you think they'll enjoy it. And follow both of us on Twitter and the other things. All the links are below, of course. This is, of course, episode 97 of the 10k Rum podcast. 3 away from 100.
What are we doing for 100? Do we know? We'll talk about it. We'll have a conversation. And if anybody has an idea, leave a comment below, or reach out to us on Twitter, or if you're part of the Subscribe Star, let us know. And we will try to put that out for episode 100.
Sounds awesome. All right. We will then, thanks for joining us. We will, of course, see everyone next week.
Thanks for watching, everyone.